Right, I don't know where, honestly, to start with this one. A couple of days back, I got a comment from somebody called Snavis Analytical, or S. Navis Analytical. I hope I've pronounced one of those correctly. Anyway, cheers, mate. Asking if I could take a look at the claims being made by someone named Ammon Hillman. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself in for. I guess I was a little bit late to the party with this one. So I thought, hey, why not? Let's check it out. The outcome of my research was pretty shocking. So Ammon Hillman is an American scholar of classical studies and philology, recognised for his unconventional interpretations of Christianity. He formerly taught at St. Mary's University of Minnesota, but was sacked after his translation of Medea, deemed controversial by the faculty. In May 2024, Hillman gained broader attention after appearing on the Danny Jones podcast, where he discussed his unorthodox perspectives on Christianity, ancient Greco-Roman medicine, and the historical figure of Jesus. This guy strikes me as someone who is both fiercely passionate and deeply intelligent, but he's also clearly grown pretty disillusioned with the academic mainstream. You watch him speak and there's this dry, almost wicked wit. It's almost easy to miss the humour because his delivery feels like someone out of a Bond villain audition. Measured, intense, and ever so slightly unhinged. He gives off an evil genius vibe, and I think that's why people feel a little bit uneasy watching him. So on the Danny Jones podcast, he argued that the Septuagint, the ancient Greek version of the Old Testament, was not a translation of Hebrew text, but rather original scripture, later translated into Hebrew. Drawing from his background in ancient Greek and historical pharmacology, Hillman claimed the Septuagint revealed startling details. He asserted that Jesus' 12 disciples were actually prepubescent boys and that Jesus was involved in using them for ritualistic and narcotic purposes. He also claims the Greek terms like pirate, robber, and booty prove that Jesus was viewed as a human trafficker, which is why he was condemned to death alongside the others next to him. He says that the word he uses, the leistes word, is just the same word that Julius Caesar used for the guys that kidnapped him. One passage Hillman fixated on is found in the Gospel of Mark, which describes a young man fleeing naked from the scene of Jesus' arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane. And according to Hillman, the Greek text doesn't describe the linen garment, as traditionally translated, rather a medicated dressing wrapped around the boy's genitals, yes, genitals, allegedly placed there so that Jesus could extract an antidote for a venom known as dipsus or dipsas, which he had supposedly consumed for its hallucinogenic effects. Hillman went on to claim that Jesus ultimately died on the cross not from crucifixion itself, but from a fatal overdose of the venom, as the antidote failed to work.
If you had a time machine and you could go to any place in history, where's the first place you would go?
Yeah, I would go back to the Garden of Gethsemane.
The Garden of Gethsemane.
It's the public park where Jesus was arrested.
You are obsessed with this.
Yeah, I think
you constantly talk about this moment when Jesus was arrested.
Yeah, it's why is that?
Is this in the Bible?
Yes, it is.
Also, dumb question. How many versions of the modern Bible are there?
I don't know how many, but I can think of at least 12.
And what's the difference between them all? Why are there so many versions?
Depends on the time that they're translated. And if you'll notice, a lot of them will follow the earlier authors. Right? Bible scholars don't read anything outside of the Bible. So how good do you think their vocab is? How good do you think their translation skills are? Mm-hmm. Right, that's the problem. So those translations are generally pretty bad, and that's what I brought some examples of. Okay. And this is in the garden, actually, that I brought these slides for. Okay. And this is the Garden of Gethsemane, and where are we? We're with Jesus in the first, and he's being arrested.
Okay, so let's give some context. Yeah. Let's give some context to this. So who was Jesus and why, and what is so good, what is so great about him?
Yeah, Jesus is a guy who walked around with 12 children and
all the time.
And prophets and a group of prophets. No, I'm just telling you what the text says.
He was just a guy who walked around with prophets.
And children.
So what was so great about him?
He called his disciples and he calls them his children constantly, right? Remember, God.
So he's a pimp.
God blesses those who take care of the children. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
He takes care of these children.
He takes care of these children.
Okay.
There is a female underage called the Paidiska. When Jesus Christ is in his trial, his followers won't admit they're his followers. Right? It's the whole, you're going to deny me. Right? Jesus is all like, I'm going to get friggin' scandalized. Right? And you're going to deny me. When he's in the garden and he gets caught. Mm-hmm. And those three, Peter, James, and John, they're keeping watch, the text says. They're guarding at a distance. While Jesus takes the naked boy that's been assigned to him, that's what the text says, like a slave.
So the depiction of this event is only in one version of the Bible. Is that right? Is it Matthew?
No, it's in multiple, but the kid is only in Mark.
Only in Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's only like 2 sentences,
And-
right? Stephen, can you pull up the passage?
I've got it here.
Oh, you've got it there. Okay.
Yeah. 1451. It's that first line.
I can pull up the passages and show the different versions.
Yeah,
and
let's
how
do
it
that.
translates as well. What passage is it?
Mark 1451.
1451. All right, cool.
Okay, a young man. What is it? Can you blow it up?
Yeah.
A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him. That's all it says.
Yeah. Now look at the Greek.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, a young boy was assigned to him, having wrapped his penis with a medicated bandage, and they arrested him.
A medicated bandage is what it says.
Sindon, yeah. I've got the...
Okay, so I'm comparing
I've got
yours to what this one says. So visibility, I can turn on Greek as well.
Okay.
I would love to see how the this online Bible matches yours.
Check out the...
Is okay, so right here, is that exactly what you're reading?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Okay, which one of those Greek words is wrapped in a medicated linen?
Epigumnu. This is on the... Okay, let's just start on the first line.
Maybe should we go to his computer, Steve?
Yeah, I'm punching it up.
That's it.
Okay.
Let's go to the first one. The second word in is neoniskos, and that is what we call a diminutive. So
Neoniskos.
it's a little of something else. And what is a neonias? A neonias is a boy.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a little boy.
Okay.
And they called paidiska female prostitutes who were underage.
Okay.
And when I say underage, I don't mean...
Did they define
under
underage down
18.
back then?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not under 18. It's before...
So, okay.
Right.
So that was their word for before.
Age was... They didn't set a year.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Right?
The translation here says young.
And was there was there any sort of moral boundaries when it came to sex or prostitution based on pre?
Not from what I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, generally, in different civilizations, you can still, like in Athens, you can still prosecute for somebody coercing what you and I would say is underage, them before puberty. Yeah, that's still, you can get in trouble for that.
Okay.
But it's not like it's not like there's compensation involved because, it's not like a crime like you and I consider a crime. It's more like a civil crime. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like being punched.
Right.
Yeah, you've damaged somebody so you can give them reparations for damaging them.
Okay.
That's what you do. But the pedagogy in antiquity, pedagogue, that person who raises, educates the children, right? That person, that's the kentauron, they called them. The centaur. It's their word for past.
Which means what?
Oh, with children.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and Chiron, remember Chiron, he's a centaur who is the master of Heracles. And now you know why Heracles has his boy Hylas. Do you understand? The sacred mystery is passed from generation to generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, what was so special about Jesus? He was a guy who walked around with kids.
Yeah. Apostles. Yeah. So, what was so special about him?
Was he the only one doing that?
What was so special about it? Like, and that's perfect. No, he's not. It's called being a laestes.
What is a laestes?
He was crucified between two of these. A laestes is defined, and I've got it on the next. Let's see. Oh, here, look. This follows my presentation. So this is what the boy that was with Jesus. This is what he was with him, doing. He's following him. Notice they use this term sunakuletho.
And
right?
Where do you get this from? This image?
Thank you to the Victorians from Oxford, who have given us this wonderful, fantastic lexicon of ancient Greek.
Okay.
1850s.
Okay.
After that book that you just had was.
Oh, okay.
Was written.
Okay.
And here it is. And notice that it's using soldiers. It's using term for soldiers and slaves, right? So this kid is not just hanging out with Jesus, right? People have tried to explain this for a while. What was the kid doing with Jesus, right? Okay. Anyway, let's go on to the next one.
Double click. There you go. Now hit the green
blow
button.
it up. Look, this is what the kid is wrapped on his gumnos. And you say, what's gumnos? Gumnos
Fine
is
cloth, usually linen.
Yeah. Fine cloth. Look where look at the second line. It says busines telemones, right? Uh-huh. So they're wrapping things in this
used
fine
for mummies.
Cloth, right?
And surgeons' bandages.
Mm-hmm. And bandages, and that's where I get it. On my end, when I'm reading the medical authors, they're all saying that you impregnate linen with drugs that you're going to treat the wound with, right? This kind of makes sense.
You impregnate women.
No, linen, I'm sorry.
You impregnate linen.
Yeah. Don't impregnate the women.
With drugs.
Yeah.
To treat wounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense?
This is the original text, and this right here is the translation that we have right now, which is, I'll punch it up for people, nothing but a linen garment.
Yeah. Notice how they took it from a bandage and turned it into.
Who did this? Who's responsible for this?
Crappy translators. People who do not work with the Greek. If you bring up the next one.
But is this an accident or is this intentional?
No,
these translations.
Intentional stupidity.
Are they intentionally leaving this shit out of the Bible? Because
no, it's bad training.
Oh, okay.
It's just bad training.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Now watch this one. Okay, so that last one had businos on it. Well, what is the businos? It's fine linen bandage, right? They give you at the top. But then look at the reference on the second line. That's Euripides Bacchae. Okay, so this is something that they're using within some kind of religious ritual. And look at number 2 at the bottom. Roman numeral number 2, Porphyros. That's Hesychius. And who's Hesychius? Hesychius is a sexy lexicographer from the 4th and 5th who comes in, and he has access to these ancient Greek lexicography texts, right? So before anybody was having any kind of substantial literature, the Greeks were already at the level, and these are ancient Greeks, they're already at the level of creating a language that is so highly specialized, we're still trying to translate it.
These translations that you've just pulled up, what does this have to do with, or what does this tell you about the scene of Jesus in the park?
That's exactly what this verse says right here. It says...
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yeah, can we...
There you go. You just did it.
Yeah, and so what happened? So Jesus is there, and it says the kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked. That's exactly what that says. The kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it says specifically in 51 that it was epigumnos, an epigumnos is on his private parts.
An epigumna, which is the bandage that's soaked in drugs.
The sindone that's on there, right? And why? Why is Jesus with the kid? Remember when he first walks in the garden, he falls over, he stumbles over, and he's in pain. He's going through the exact same symptoms that doctors will describe.
Jesus is?
Of the drug users. Yeah, it's in this chapter. It's in Mark 14. Yeah.
So he's tripping.
It says that he's exceptionally fearful, right? So it looks like he's in some kind of psychotic fear, and he's screaming about, "Take it, don't let me do it." And he's with his kid. He's with this kid at the time, right? And he ends up with stuff on his face, stuff that is like big drops of porphyrin.
I'm talking about bodily fluids.
Blood is how it's typically, no, that's how it's translated. It's not the blood that he's got, it's purple. And he's got an antidote from the kid's sin. That's the galene, is the kid's sin. Heracles has to have Hylas. He has to have his boy. Zeus has to have Ganymede. On the prepubescent side, they call it Ganymede's. And the question is, do you drink from Ganymede's?
I don't.
Well, that's why you're not in charge.
Yeah, probably. All right, bring me back down to earth here. What's going on in the park again? So Jesus has the purple on his face.
Yeah, he's got the purple on his face.
So Jesus is having some sort of a psychotic fit, right?
He's having some kind of overwhelming emotional state that's hitting him so hard, he's falling on the ground. So he's got something on board that's causing him to stumble.
And it's 4 a.m. in the morning?
It's 4 a.m. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got and who
he just came from the
who wrote this, by the way?
Party with the kids. He just came from
Did
the
one
party.
of the cops write this? One of the cops that arrested him?
No, this is Mark. Yeah.
Mark was there.
Well, no, Mark is telling you the secret things that you're not supposed to know.
So how does Mark know if he wasn't there?
Yeah, well, I don't care if he does or doesn't know. The fact is he's saying them.
Okay.
And that's what's scary.
Well, how do we know Mark
You
didn't
have
have an
a
extra grind
religious-
against Jesus?
you
You want to
don't-
make Jesus look like a bad guy and make him look like a weirdo or
he
a crazy
could.
person.
He could, maybe. I don't know, for all I know.
Right.
That's why I say we have to stick with exactly what the sources
The point
say.
is that this is take it for what it's worth. This is what Mark said.
Yeah, and
Mark was not there.
No, it's Peter, James, and John, and the kid.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Mark, where did Jesus come from before this? In the scene, he came from the place where he was with all the kids in the upper room. That's where they came from, right?
In what room?
In the upper room. It's just the way to refer to the place. Look, it was shady, right? This is part of the cops. This is part of what the cops have on him, right? He sent out a couple of his boys to go scout out a place. And when he did, he told him, hey, you're going to come to this guy. And he's standing there and he's doing this. And you got to approach him and say, Jesus' boys, where do we need a place for Jesus to celebrate? And he says, take him in here. And he finds a guy and they take him up. And they get a shady backroom business. Remember, what does Jesus do with his boys? We all know this. That's why we're a crowd and we're angry and we want Jesus crucified. Now you understand why there was a friggin' crowd there. Yeah. A little bit brutal with him, weren't they? Well, yeah, they had good reason to be. He was with those 12 underage kids in that room washing feet. And you got to get naked when you wash feet. Have you ever washed somebody's feet naked?
Not that I can recall.
How about a 12-year-old boy?
No, absolutely not.
Now, why wouldn't you? Do you have some kind of problem with Jesus?
Apparently I do.
Yeah, okay. All right. That's too bad because he ends up in the garden after this with the 3 older ones and he says, keep guard while he takes the young kid off to the middle of the garden. In the meantime, they're falling asleep while Jesus is rolling around in agony and doing what he's got to do to get for the Galene from the boy. And that's the mastery here. The boy has some kind of antidote. Galen describes yeah, it's not milky.
Galen describes this.
Yeah, as long with the girls exudate from their breast. You can milk. You didn't know you could?
I did not know that.
Okay, well, you can, medically. Probably has antibodies in it to whatever the venoms they're using. Because these same girls, you cut them.
And this stuff?
You cut them and you wrap them with the snake venom. And that's why we all hold up the serpent, right? We all know it. You see my tattoo, right? It doesn't
Which tattoo?
It doesn't say it was on a pole.
Show me the tattoo you're talking about.
It says it was on a tattoo. I'm just any of them. Just any of them. I'm waxing poetic. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Galen talks about this that boys and girls create, and he talks about this being used as an antidote to snake venom specifically.
It's the Galene. It's a Greek term that means the calm after the storm. Galene.
See Dan McClellan's response.
What do you make? Speaking of Mark, what do you think of Ammon's interpretation of the scene in the public park where Jesus was arrested at 4 a.m. with the kid?
Yeah, that's. I think that's wildly over-interpreting things. There's just a kid with like a cloak on or some kind of piece of fabric.
He says he claims it was a medical bandage. He claims the Greek word means medical bandage.
Like if you have a text where he says, so the doctor applied a blank to his wound, you could interpret it as medical bandage. But if you just see the word on its own, it does not mean. No,
oh, really?
No.
Okay.
So it's the idea there is that there was a kid who just had something wrapped around him to keep warm, and they were like, "Come here, kid," and they grabbed it, and he ran off, and they were left with the piece of fabric in his hand.
Yeah,
so you just see him scurrying away nude.
Okay.
So the notion that there was anything sexualized about that, or that it had anything to do with drugs or antidotes to drugs, isn't supported by anything at all.
And is it true that Jesus said, "I'm not a lay stace"?
I don't know which part he's talking about.
When the people came to arrest him, the cops, when they got there and they had all their weapons, and he was like in a state of mania. He says Jesus was like, he was overwhelmed and he was in this state of mania, and he said, "I am not a lay stace."
That's something that can be interpreted a variety of ways as well. It's not indicative of any kind of enhanced or alternate state or anything like that. Doesn't mean he's... Because they use a lot of words to refer to Jesus being kind of overcome with sorrow and grief and things like that. And sometimes they're overinterpreted when it's... I think some of the translations should probably relax a little bit. It's more like he said it in this kind of voice, not necessarily...
No, so what Ammon was saying.
What passage is it? Because I can look up the passage and we can find out.
I have no idea.
It's like
He said, I believe
that.
he said it was in Mark. Oh, God, if I'm like 14 or 15, I want to say he said. Anyways, he said that he says that the word lay stace means human trafficker. And he says that human traffickers were also everywhere in that time period. He says there was pirates, there was traffickers. I mean, even he said Julius Caesar was captured by human traffickers or traffickers. And when Julius Caesar, like he says that in Julius Caesar's account, he actually calls these guys laestae or laestai or something like that. And then he goes and crucifies these guys that captured him when he gets ransomed and catches them.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of human trafficking going on because you had, the society was even more stratified then than it is now. So you had a lot of people who were enslaved, and then you had different types of enslaved people, and so. I'm sure there was a lot of that going on, particularly in the more densely populated areas.
So his point about that was, why is this guy saying I'm not a lay stace, which means I'm not a human trafficker, when this boy is with him and the boy runs away, and then he goes and he says the next day he's crucified in between two other lay stace. He says the guys that were crucified next to him were human traffickers.
So I know that the terms when it's talking about so human trafficking wasn't a from what I know from first century Rome, human trafficking wasn't one of the crimes that was punishable by crucifixion. It was the word that they used to describe the criminals. I think in the later text it calls them thieves, but they're brigands. They're because it was shoot, I'm forgetting the word.
Steve, maybe you can find that Greek word and we can punch it in that thing again.
Yeah, there's a. I'm trying to think of the English word. It was basically it's sedition that was punishable by
sedition
crucifixion. Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that's trying to revolt against the state.
Okay. Okay.
But they would have been people who were probably revolutionaries or people who were attacking the Roman rulers or things like that. I know thieves is not right.
Go back, Steve, to that long list.
Yeah.
Go down. It says on the right kind of like what they all mean.
Yeah.
Plundering, booty, spoil, taken as booty, captive, a robber. There you go.
Those, yeah.
Wasn't a lay stace
to
like
seize, to carry off as booty. Keep going.
It was like a pirate. I think this is it.
One of them said buccaneer, didn't it?
Yeah, but
I think buckaroo is the right translation there.
yeah, it's hard to every way I can spell it in the English language. It doesn't.
But you'll notice with these glosses as well, because these lexicons just use glosses, which are basically here are equivalent words. It's not necessarily saying this means when this happens in this context and this color and all this other stuff. It's not a full definition, but it's pretty generic. Like a robber can be a lot of different things. And, you might find if you tell a story about a robber in a specific circumstance, then again, there's all this additional semantic freight that goes along with the way the word is used. But that doesn't mean that is evoked with every single use of the word. But yeah, I don't think I know of any New Testament scholars who would agree that the other two people crucified alongside Jesus were human traffickers. I mean, it could have been included in the broader notion of a someone who committed sedition or someone who was a brigand or something like that, but it certainly doesn't specifically refer to human trafficking.
And he says that the word he uses, that lay stace word, is the same word that Julius Caesar used for the guys that captured and kidnapped him and that he crucified.
There it is. I found it.
That's the word right there.
This is the Greek actual spelling. It's funny. It says predator. Yeah.
Whoa.
Lay stace. That's how it's spelled in English. But let's plug it in.
Maybe, let's plug it in, and then we should find the actual passage in, I think it's Mark,
I've been looking at it. Oh.
Or maybe it's Matthew. I don't know. Anyways.
So stick that in there.
Pump that in there. There we go. Okay, here you go. To be carried off as booty, to be won by force, a pirate or a robber.
Yeah. So that can refer to an incredibly wide variety of things. Okay, so robber, highwayman, bandit, revolutionary, insurrectionist, guerrilla. So I think that second sense, revolutionary, insurrectionist, that's the kind of sense that could merit crucifixion.
Oh, that's not even here. You said...
Yeah, where did you find the revolutionary?
So I'm looking in what scholars affectionately know as BDAG, which is a Greek-English lexicon of the New Testament and other early Christian literature. So it isolates the usage of these words within early Christian literature to show how they're being used in those contexts.
Yeah, but wouldn't that kind of be a biased translation? If Jesus is saying he's not a lay stace, they wouldn't want Jesus to be saying he's not a predator. They would want him to be saying he's not a revolutionary.
Well, right? they look at all the different places it's used to see how it's being used, and I'd be interested to see chart the usage of this word to see in what genre of literature and what types of context it is used to refer specifically to human traffickers. Because robber, highwayman, bandit, that's pretty much anybody who's waiting along the side of the road.
Well, the guys that captured Julius Caesar. Wouldn't that be in the same context? Because he was what?
Yeah, but the context would indicate it.
I mean the same period in time. I'm sorry.
Oh, it would be, near the same period of time. It wouldn't be the same literary corpora. It's not the same literature. And also, one of the big differences between what's going on in the literature written by Greek elites and the literature written by early Christians is the Christians are using the Koine Greek, common Greek. This is street Greek.
Okay.
It's the Greek that you use as a second language. These are not people who were raised reading Plato and Aristophanes and all these other people. And so this is, they're more closely related to classical Greek over and against the New Testament Greek, which is generally referred to as Koine Greek, which means vulgar or common.
Okay.
And so they use words in different ways. And this is one of the main points, is that all the literature that Ammon is pointing to is exclusively classical literature or literature from elite Greeks who are literarily trained and all that kind of stuff. I didn't see.
Are you familiar? Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say I have yet to see a single piece of evidence actually from Christian literature to indicate that it's ever being used in anything approximating the way he's describing it.
There is you found the verse. Mark 14:51.
Yeah.
New International Version. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him. But where does it say? When does he say his response to the cops?
Here. Oh gosh, where did it go?
This is where Hillman veers hard into conspiracy territory. His Greek interpretations stretch far beyond what most linguists or biblical historians would consider credible at all. I mean, it's imaginative, no doubt. So where do I land on Hillman? He's undeniably clever, passionate, well-read, but there's also a sense that he's become jaded, fed up with the constraints of mainstream academia. He comes across like a wickedly smart bloke with a taste for the provocative. And look, some people genuinely miss the humour in his delivery. There's a dry, almost theatrical evil genius vibe going on. But the theories themselves, they're entertaining, right? But they're not backed up as credible across scholarly circles. Most of it relies on wildly creative interpretations of Greek and historical contexts that just don't hold up. It is interesting, honestly a little bit troubling, how Greek translations, particularly of ancient texts, can be interpreted and reinterpreted in the way that conveniently serves specific ideological or theological agendas. Small shifts in a word choice, grammatical emphasis, or cultural framing can ripple outward, fueling the formation of entire denominations or doctrinal stances. Suddenly, metaphor becomes mandate, poetic nuance hardens into orthodoxy. What begins as scholarly speculation gets codified into unquestionable dogma. I mean, it makes you wonder how much of what we call truth is really just the long shadow of someone else's interpretive bias carried across centuries. Big thanks again to Snavis Analytical for sending me down this chaotic rabbit hole. If you've got more odd corners of the internet or academia you want to explore, drop a comment. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed getting into new material. All right, see you later. Catch you in the next one.
Who could be the